Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Terra and Tats, and yeah, this is a random week. And the movie that I'm smiling because I really like this movie, and I have a lot of fun with this movie. And hopefully, if you watch it, you might enjoy it too. Let's see, what year did this movie come out? It is from 2018. Okay, it's from 2018. The movie I'm talking about is called Bloodfest, and I can't recommend this movie enough, guys. The story, we have this young boy named Dax, and he's, watching, he's getting ready to say black zombie, white zombie with his mom. And so he's asking her, like, Mom, why do we like horror movies and stuff like that? And, she explains to him, like it's, kind of like a roller coaster ride. And, you can face your fears and you can come out of it knowing that you're stronger and everything else. And Tate Donovan plays her husband, Dr. Vaughn Conway, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go and check on. I forget the sister's name, but I'm gonna go check on her, make sure she's okay. You two have fun watching scary movies and stuff. And so she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get you some chocolate milk, and Dax, he's a little boy. He's like, fine. So she goes into the kitchen, and it turns out, well, there's a man in a mask with a large knife, and unfortunately, Dax's mom gets attacked and she gets killed. And Dax, he hears the noise coming from the kitchen, so he goes in to investigate, as you often do in a horror movie. So he goes in, he sees his mother has been attacked. The killer is coming for him, but Dax's father comes in, takes a gun, and shoots the guy down. Then we find out that actually that Dax's father was, or is a psychiatrist, a doctor, and it turned out that a patient that he was treating had an unhealthy obsession with certain horror films, and he took it too far, and it led him to kill Dax's mom, and try to attack Dax and the father, but the father saved them. So now years later, we find out it's like Dax is now he's a grown boy, and he wants to go to Bloodfest, and which is basically a horror festival, kind of a convention type of thing. It's kind of a, almost like, I guess the best way to describe it would be kind of like Disneyland for horror movie fans. That would be the best way to explain it. But Dax's father doesn't want him going to Horror Fest because he's like, how could you love horror movies, after everything that's happened, and how could you, be into violence and things like this? And but Dax explained, it's like it was a connection that he and his mother had. They watched horror movies, they loved them, and I could totally relate to that. You know, I remember being a kid, and I had a connection like that with my mother. She loved horror movies, and as time went on, I mean, she was more into the more like the older movies, more like, she would love like the old Universal horror movies and Hammer movies and stuff like that, stuff from like 70s and 80s, but kind of like getting into like like a lot of the stuff that's coming out now. Like she would never be into stuff like Saw, or I don't think she would have gotten it. She watched House of a Thousand Corpses. She wasn't really impressed with that. But stuff like Saw or Hostel or Anything Eli Roth or any of that kind of stuff, she would not be into the extreme stuff. But we did go see a number of horror movies when I was a kid. We went to go see Frankenstein, Brandon's version of Frankenstein, in the theater together. We went to see Wes Craven's New Nightmare together. We went to see many, many horror movies together. It was like a mother-son, fun day and all this other kind of stuff. So we went to go see a lot of horror movies. So that was a bond that her and I shared. And then even after she passed away, people had asked me, like, hey, like, why do you still like that stuff and everything else? It's like I grew up with it, and it was a bond. It was a thing that me and my mother shared. It was a bond that we had. We loved horror movies, and we watched them and enjoyed them and things like this. So I see where I could see myself in a character like Dax. So anyway, though, it turns out that Dax's father found out that he's going to go to Bloodfest, and he takes his, he's supposed to get a wristband to go in, but Dax's father destroys the wristband, so he can't go. And so he's working in the video store, which unfortunately I never got to do, but he's working at a video store with his female buddy Sam, and their other buddy Krill, who Krill, he's this guy right there. Okay, and that's Sam, and that's Dax, and this girl is Ashley. And so Dax is talking about how upset he is that his father destroyed his ticket. He can't go, or his wristband. He can't go to Bloodfest. So they say call up this girl Ashley, the blonde girl here. They're like, call her up, and tell her, you need, ask her if she can get you in and all this. So he calls up and pretty much begs her to get him into Bloodfest. So they decide they're gonna, hey, the trip's ready. They're gonna go. They're gonna have a great time. So they get there, and it seems like a fun party and everything. Ashley's there with this, guy who directed a movie that she got a chance to play in, and of course she gets to, they ask her like, what role were you in the movie? She's like topless girl number 4. There's a lot of humor, a lot of meta humor and stuff in this movie. And then, they meet their, Dax meets one of his heroes, this actor named Hinckley, who played a character named the Arborist in a horror movie series called Arbor Day, which is, you could tell, when there's a moment when they kind of explain the storyline in the movie. It's very Friday the 13th inspired. But anyway, so the main show comes on, and then you have this character named Walsh, and he's saying, we're going to make the ultimate horror movie. Here's the problem. Horror movies are too glamorized now. They're too mainstream, It's like, now we have vampires that sparkle. Now, now zombies have been turned into soap operas. Now Freddy's on the lunchbox and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, now we're going to, we need to get it back and make it to where, it's, it's something you shouldn't be doing, watching horror movies and things like this and everything else. And so, he's like, we're going to introduce this new slasher named Red, and it's a masked person with, this kind of cool knife and everything. And so, it's like, let's get 2 volunteers, and these 2 girls go up on the stage, and, it's like this character Red just turned around and just, just with the knife quick. And one girl gets her throat slashed, and, one girl gets her stomach sliced open. And, of course, everybody being horror fans, and they're in this place called Horror Fest, they think it's special effects. They think it's like a magic trick. Only to find out, no, this character, Red, actually did kill these girls. And next thing you know, here comes an army of people wearing pig masks with chainsaws. And they're like, hey, man, welcome to Bloodfest. And it's all real. And we're making a movie and everything. This is all going to be filmed and everything else. And so these, people with the pig masks and chainsaws start going around just mowing everybody down with the chainsaws. There's blood and gore and all this kind of stuff. And so our main characters here, they realize like they need to try to get out of this place, and what's the best way to do it. And then they run into the character Hinckley, and at first Dax goes up to him and he's like all fanboying out over him and stuff like that, but then he's very let down when he comes to find out Hinckley's like, I don't like horror movies, I don't like the character I played and everything else. It's like, dude, it was just an acting job and get over it. It's like, and so Dax is kind of let down. But when he needs these horror fans to save his life, he's like, can I tag along? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on. But it turns out that there's a number of different things that they have, different areas that they have to go to or go through to get out of Bloodfest to make it out alive. And now like one section they call like Vamp Camp, which they actually took these women, and it's explained better in the movie, but like they sharpened their teeth and injected them with things and everything to give off stronger pheromones and things like, and so on and so on. And then and they end up having a taste for blood. They drink blood, so these women are vampires. And then they have an area which is like Zombie Town or something like that. And they end up taking these corpses, and they put these devices on them that when electrically charged, kind of a Frankenstein, almost kind of a thing, it turns them into walking corpses, and they go around and they're killing and eating people. And so they got to try to figure out how to get through these areas. There's a clown town with killer clowns. There's this, there's that. There's like a haunted area, like a ghost area and all this. And so they have all these areas that they need to try to get through to get out of Bloodfest. And the only thing that's going to really save them is their knowledge of horror films. And the fact that, they've spent their whole life watching horror films. They're like, okay, and the thing is the funny part is to survive, usually when you watch these meta horror films, usually it's like, oh, okay, so you have to subvert the rules of horror films to survive in this situation. This one here is like, you have to abide by the rules and the tropes and the cliches of horror movies. That's the only way you're going to get out of this alive. And so, our four intrepid heroes, they have to make their way through and try to get out of this and everything. And it's a wild ride. And, there are some twists and turns in here. There's a lot of fun humor. There's like there's one that's like one place they get caught up in is very Saw inspired. It's like a, kind of like a torture. It kind of reminds you of something like like the bathroom in the first Saw movie or something like that, where they're being tortured and stuff like that. They have to make out of that. They have to make out of Zombie Town, Van Camp, all this other kind of stuff. And I really enjoy this movie. It's a lot of fun. You got some really good humor. There's plenty of gore to go around. There is quite a bit of CGI blood here, I'm not going to lie, so that's going to be kind of off-putting. But, you get some really fun performances. You get a fun, one thing that is actually really funny in the movie, you get a fun little cameo from Zachary Levi, who you might remember did the voice of Flynn Rider in the movie Tangled. And, when they run into him, he's not in the movie long. Like I said, it's a cameo. And he's just talking about how these horrible things, he's like, I was with this girl that I loved and I was going to ask her to marry me. And, I had to watch her get ripped apart and eaten before my very eyes. And the girl here, Ashley, she just keeps fangirling out. It's like, oh my God, you're Flynn Rider and all this kind of stuff. And oh my God, yeah, my hair is magical and stuff like that. And oh man, when you gave, when you gave, what was it, when you gave Rapunzel the smolder and everything, oh, I was humid and all this other kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny because he's like talking about like these horrible things that are happening to him. And like the guy's clearly traumatized and she cannot stop fangirling out over Flynn Rider from Tangled and everything else. That's a very funny scene. But there are some good twists and turns in here. I don't want to give it away, but I would definitely recommend that, if you like the fun meta horror movies, this is kind of something in the vein of like not so much Scream, but kind of like, I think if you love movies like Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, or Tucker and Dale versus Evil, or something like that, you'll enjoy this kind of movie, and it's a lot of fun. Got good humor in it, good performances. But like the one thing that I really love is I love the idea that the meta humor. See, here's the problem. Usually, a lot of times when you do these meta humor horror movies, usually it's like look at Scream. Oh, Scream, someone has taken their love of scary movies too far, and it's like, to me personally, Scream. I always thought Scream is like the old fuddy-duddy of horror movies, because basically the movie is pretty much. Personally, I think the movie's pretty much saying like, hey, if you watch horror movies, oh, it's going to rot your brain. It's going to make you go out and kill people. It's going to drive you insane and all that kind of stuff. Let me put it this way. If watching lots of horror movies made you violent and made you go out and kill people, between me and the 6 other guys on this channel alone, there'd be none of you left. Think about that. Between the 7 of us on this channel, we'd wipe everybody out. With all the horror movies we've seen, with all the, years and years and years of, Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers and Leatherface and all this other kind of stuff, And so, but just, a lot of times, usually when they do a lot of these meta horror movies, it's like, that always kind of felt like, that's what they're trying to say. Oh, you need to stop watching these kind of movies, man, because these movies are bad. They'll rot your brain. They'll make you go out and kill people, and they'll turn you into a deviant and everything. And they even make the argument in this movie, like, oh my God, people who watch those movies. And it's usually by the people in the movie who are wrong, And so I love the idea of a meta horror movie where, horror fans are not the villains. Horror fans don't turn into psycho freaks who want to kill everybody. Horror fans are the ones who end up saving the day. And, they're your main characters. And, you say, it's like, yeah, they have this passion for horror movies and stuff like that. But they're good people. They don't want to hurt anybody, and everything else. And at the end of it, they just want to survive, And that's the thing, it's like me, the guys on the channel, and all of you watching this, we're horror fans. But, it's like, we don't want to hurt anybody. At least most of us don't. But that's just one thing that I really love about this movie, and just the idea of the horror fans, being the good guys instead of the horror fans always being looked at as the freaks or the weirdos, or, oh yeah, like Scream. Oh yeah, it turns out the killer has to be somebody who's, really, really into horror movies and knows the tropes and knows the cliches and everything else. So I'm just really glad to have a movie like this, that makes the horror fans the heroes instead of the villains. So, but anyway, if anything I've said, has, if anything I've said, kind of gets you interested, I would definitely say, yeah, give Bloodfest a chance. It's a very fun movie. It's a wild ride. It runs at a pretty brisk pace. It's like 93 minutes. And, a lot of blood, a lot of humor, everything else to get you through it. Likeable characters, definitely give it a shot. So, anyway, Jesus, these videos end up being so long. So that's going to do it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I also hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to the BodyBags channel. There's a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. Great guys. Everybody's doing great stuff. We're all having fun with it. We have more theme weeks coming. We have more, years. Like I think the next one we're talking about was what 1979. We have label weeks coming and everything else. So yeah, please continue to watch. So take care, everybody. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.